Right. Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Simchas Teva. We're standing here, obviously, on our minds is coming Yom Narayim. But the truth is, before, in a sense, we tilt in our Iskuk Mashiach, the Shachas Ekris, in that direction, we do have to acknowledge an event that occurred not that long ago, in the end of the month of Menachem Av, Chaf Menachem Av, while the entire as we know, the news from Eretz Yisrael is about the division and the separation and the rancor, etc., that is that's tearing apart the place, the epicenter of Yiddishkeit and Yidden, is obviously Zukunftike, obviously in Crown Heights in 770 is for us the epicenter, but in terms of where one I think can make an argument already now, Reiv Minyan Binyan of Yisrael, and yet the news coming out of Eretz Yisrael is Peter Halavavis, etc. Then to see the photos of the Siyum Sefer Torah, the 8th Sefer Torah, Shmini. We know that the Shmini is the we say the Shtal is that Shmini is Geula, and that Mitzvah Hashem, to see that it in action, 30,000 plus people at the Kaisel. Many others tuning in various ways. In fact, as I understand, I'm sure Rabbi Greisman will speak about it, how the Rebbe was so actively involved in every detail of the children's Sefer Torah, starting from when the advent of it in Tavshim Aleph, Yud Aleph Nisan, Tavshim Aleph, but really every last detail to how the receipts that the children would get, and how the letters should be chosen, and also how to participate in the siyumim, that the participation was the Rebbe encouraged in whatever way possible, virtually, etc. So 30,000 present, with many more definitely participating in virtually, so that in the midst of the Pirur Halavavis, which is the opposite, is in a step away from the direction toward the Gula, to then have the Pula of the Rebbe that the Rebbe invested so strongly into, and appointed the Shliach specifically to do this. And as the Rebbe from the get-go indicated that the power of this Sefer Torah would forbear many potential asenes, and many things in the wrong direction, and no doubt to take the great leap forward. And again, with the 8th of it, I'll ask actually Rabbi Greisman to address this particular point, and when he gives us when he tells us about it, is also what he saw as the direct connection between the children's Sifrei Torah and the Geula Shlema. But I think for all of us, it was Kamayim Karim Nefesh Ayefa, with all that news, to see that this Pu'ula, the Pu'ula that was so particularly important to the Rebbe, bring together Yidden from all stripes to come to the Kaisel, to Yerushalayim, to the Kaisel, and to celebrate this Achdus. There's no question whatsoever that was a great leap forward towards the Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach. And so, without any further ado, Rav Shmuel Greisman Shlita on the Shliach the Rebbe to Eretz Yisrael, and specifically to the Sefer Torah LaYoladim.
Behemshich to what you said about uniting the feeling of Achdus in a time when there's a lot of not Achdus, the Hepeth of Achdus in Eretz Yisrael, Yesh Leimer, that the Kesher, the children's Sefer Torah, Bedafke, the children's Sefer Torah, is that everything that happens in the world starts with Yidden. Everything that happens in the world of Yidden happens to be connected with Pnimius Neshamas, which is the Pashtas Chassidim, the Rebbe's Chassidim, and whatever happens by the Rebbe's Chassidim, that's what happens in the world. And if there's a Hepech or Pirur Halavavis or Chiluki Deis in the world, in Eretz Yisrael, between Yidden and Eretz Yisrael, it probably starts because there's Chalukei and different approaches and different attitudes in Anash. The thing about the children's Sefer Torah is that in the beginning of the year, it was a doubt if 120,000 letters will be able to get 120,000 children in 1 year, which is the average is like 50, 60,000 kids a year. But Chassidim and Asher Yisrael said that there were so many different kind of hakel events, Fabrengens, but they were all specific groups with different, everything that they had in common. They got together and they made a hakel. But a hakel of all of Anash, with all Chilukei, with all different approaches, is only in the children's Sefer Torah. And that's probably because that in this Sefer Torah, it's one Sefer Torah that letters are bought by every single person, by everybody in Anash, from what you call Yamin, small, this attitude, that attitude, all of the different types of people, of different types of Anash, are all united in one Sefer Torah. When Rebbe started the Sefer Torah Kloli, after the first Sefer Torah was finished, the Rebbe said he started the purpose, the idea of the campaign is not writing a Sefer Torah. Behind the campaign is Ardus. The Rebbe said in the Fabrengen once, Vayishlach Memalef, that Sefer Torah, Asis and Sefer Torah is not a separate, it's a sniff of Avis Yisrael and Ardus Yisrael. The purpose of the campaign is Ardus. And the reason he started with children is because it's easier to make Ardus by children because their days are not menugodim with one from the other, and they're easier to get together. So once we were mamshech Ardus in the world through children, we can now go to Ardus to adults. And this idea was mudgish in the children's Sefer Torah, in the Sim Sefer Torah. It was really a hakel of a noshim the taf from all over, from all whatever kind of days that Anash have, and they were all united. And that was the feeling that was at those that were at the Siyam Sefer Torah felt that Chassidim made mishpacha with all the differences that we have. Yud Aleph Nissen, Tov Shem Emal, the night of Yud Aleph Nissen, the night was Tuesday night, and it was the Tchilas Shnas HaShemein of the Rebbe. The Rebbe said in the middle of the brain, he wants to have something new to say. Nitkin Gzeira Chadasha, but there are Miftzah Chadash. And after a hefsek of a Niggin, Zog L'chaim, they started the Rebbe's father's Niggin. And then the Rebbe said that Tzivus Hashem has been active for the last half a year. Kolomei Sukkis, when the Rebbe founded the Tzivus Hashem, boys and girls under the age of Bar and Bas Mitzvah, that their pu'ulas, with their missions and all the things that they have to do, will overcome the Golus and bring Mashiach. But the army is spread all over the world, even though they have the same symbols and songs and projects. Nevertheless, the true Ardus is only through Torah. Vayichen Sham Yisrael Neged Ahor, Ardus was only when they were under Har Sinai to be Makabel Torah. Torah is what pales true Ardus. The male of the Rebbe's Matzia to write a Sefer Torah. Sefer Torah is 304,805 letters. That amount of children, except the Rebbe said that it should be at least a minion of Mevulgorim. It shouldn't be a Shaila of the Sefer Torah Shulktani. Should also have letters, the Sofrim, the people that are involved in the camp and in running the campaign should have letters in the Sefer Torah, also have letters in Sefer Torah, but all of the other letters should be bought exclusively only for children, boys and girls all over the world. And this Ardus, at that time, the Rebbe said, will bring Yeshua in Bracha to Am Yisrael. It was obvious that, like all of the Rebbe's Mivtzoyim, originally were Mivtzoyim of security and protection of the Jewish people. Here, the Rebbe was saying that Am Yisrael is in need of a special bracha to bring Yeshua in bracha. What exactly the Rebbe was referring to was not clear, but later during the campaign, it became obvious. The Sefer Torah should be written in Eretz HaKodesh. Eine Vayelikecha bo mereithis shana ad achra shana. In Eretz Yisrael Gufa, in the city of Ardus, which is Yerushalayim. Shleinas Chalkel L'Shvotim, Ir Shechubru L'Yachdov, which is in the Rebbe's capital of this, the Rebbe's capital this year. Ir Shechubru Yagdav in Yerushalayim and Yerushalayim Gufa. It wasn't the first night. The second night, the Rebbe said it should be written in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul in the old city of Yerushalayim. And Kiyadua, that the only shul that after the old city came back to the hands, to the Jewish hands, it was the only shul that the walls and the roof remained intact, which shows on an Indian for Nitzkias. That's where the Sefer Torah should be written, and that's where the Sefer Torah are today. In other words, in that Aron Kodesh, in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul, the Rebbe was Madgish, Bein HaChemes, in the old city in Yerushalayim, which is the real Yerushalayim, is Bein HaChemes. You can find 8 Sefer Torah, which include 2.5 million children, Hakel and Ardus of Jewish children, and of course it includes the children. The Rebbe said that with the children includes the parents and the grandparents that all have a shaykhus to buying the letters of the Sefer Torah, which is an incredible strength of Ardus, which brings Yeshua and Baruch Tam Yisrael. The Rebbe wanted the Sefer Torah to begin writing it in Yud Aleph Nisan. When you buy something, you have to pay for it in order to belong to it, to make a kinyan. The child should pay money. Best that they pay their own money, but the majority of the children, usually it's the parents, the majority of the children, their parents or teachers bought letters for them. And if the child pays for themselves, it should be from their own money, from their allowance money, and they themselves should fill out the form. Describe the child when he fills out something, he gets involved in something that he's doing. He's totally involved. He rolls up his sleeves and he sticks his tongue out between his teeth. He takes a look at the pen and pencil, thinking how he's going to write it, and then he writes it. And he fills it out. And when he signs his signature, he makes a design, sort of a kishkusha design for the on the end of the form. That Maisa Kotten is very dear to the Eibishter. The Eibishter loves children, and he loves Jewish children. He loves the Maisim that they do are very dear to the Eibishter. After the child fills out the form, the Rebbe said the first name, mother's name, family name, Zettel, the Rebbe wrote the address, age, and the Rebbe made a check, a V, to indicate that the child paid for the letter and put the dollar into the envelope. The envelope should be sent to the office in Kfar Chabad. People started sending it into the Rebbe. The Rebbe said the Kavan is let the child have a direct connection with their Eretz HaKodesh. After the child fills out the form and it comes to the office in Kfar Chabad, we have to acknowledge the receipt and the purchase of that letter, but it shouldn't be an ordinary receipt. It should be in the form of a certificate, a nice certificate, a beautiful certificate with pictures or drawings of the Mekaymis HaKodeshim, as is the minhag to do on Jewish calendars, on pushkas of Rabbi Balanes. And the Rebbe in a tzedek wrote the Kaisel and Morisa Machpela and the Rashbi, and we had also Rachel, Kever Rachel. When the first sketch went into the Rebbe, Kever Rachel was on the right side, and the Kaisel was on the left. The Rebbe said, change the position. The Kaisel should be on the upper right side, and Kever Rachel should be on the left side. The certificate should also have the child's name, when they bought the letter, and here the Rebbe was Machadish. It's a minig Yisrael. When somebody buys a letter in Sefer Torah, they're told which specific letter or which specific portion of the Torah is theirs. This minig should be discontinued, not only by adults, but especially for children. Since we're talking about Ardus, and we want it to be Ardus, when the Rebbe gave the price, set the price of the $1, the Rebbe said not more and not less. Again, it's an Indian of Ardus. Everybody should give the same amount of money. Even though the Rebbe said in the Fabrengen that the expense is going to be close to $3 per child, nevertheless, the child for the letter should only pay $1. It's a token amount, and it's because the child should feel that they're part of it and they bought it and it's theirs. The certificate should also then, the Rebbe said, you have to let the people know, or the child know, which specific letter they have in the Sefer Torah. Discontinue this mimik. Children, since the purpose of the campaign is Agdus, everyone should have the same feeling. If one child has a letter in the Shem Hashem, and another child will have not in the Shem Hashem, or could be even in a letter like Hepech of Tev and Hepech of Tara, which the posuk ikim akasav, not to say a letter that in a word that's not Torah or the opposite of good. So they should not be told which specific letter they have. We should make a lottery, and they're advocated to do it through a computer program, which letter has the shaykhs in each letter, and in our office we have recorded which specific letter belongs to the child. The child's name is next to a letter in the Sefer Torah, but the child should not be told which letter they have. Better should be not to tell them anything at all. Just say they have a letter in the Sefer Torah. But mitzad the yisim the kiyim, the minimum is that you can let them know which parsha, which section of the Torah they have, and which chumash and which parsha. That's what it says in the Torah, and then it should be signed by the secretary of the committee, or one of the Chavrei Avad, and one of the secretary of Avad should be signed, so it should be an official document. The campaign started, and at every opportunity, and that the Rebbe spoke, and people that sent in for brachas for children that needed brachas, the Rebbe said, now the call of the hour is letters in the children's Sefer Torah. A month after the campaign, it was Yud Gimel Ir, Yotzar, the Rebbe's brother, Yisrael Yerleib. The Rebbe sent a letter to Klal Yisrael and said that the situation of the Jewish people needs a special bracha, and the way to do it is Achdus. Achdus will bring a bracha to Am Yisrael. The Rebbe did not mention in that letter the children say for Torah. Yud Tes Ir, Shabbos Pashas B'Chakosi, a day after Lag Beimer. The Rebbe said there's a madman, a meshugah, was the lashon of the Rebbe, in the world, and he can steal himself into a room, press a button, and the Rahman al bring destruction and to the world. And this person has to be stopped. There's no time to educate him. He's not predictable. You don't know what he's going to do tomorrow. And this quickly has to stop. And here, parenthetically, the Rebbe spoke about Achdus, about by Chassidim, Achdus by Anash, about people, one steching the other one, he meets them in shul, whatever. Riches adover that Achdus has to change, the attitude of Achdus has to change by Anash. And then, since Achdus is what is especially needed now, and to educate and to get adults and get Yidden together is not easy and will also take time. We need a quick remedy to this madman, how to stop him. And I've said Miftzah Tfilin, Miftzah Mezuzah, Miftzah Tzedakah, our Miftzahim are that the pool is a nitzchi of its Lamaila. We need a pula lemata, a constant pula lemata of Achdus, which will stop this madman from doing what he's doing. And that is a letter in the Sefer Torah because it's a pu'ula t'midus. Everybody understood. The Rebbe was referring to the madman that was at that time threatening with nuclear power to the Yidden in Eretz HaKodesh. And the Rebbe said, use out the next few weeks between Lag Beimer and Shavuos, both Yom Tevim connected with children. Shavuos, which are the B'neinu Arevim Badenu, to sign up as many children as possible. Shabbos Pashas Nosai, which was then Dalet Sivin, and the Rebbe said at the Fabring, and tomorrow, hey Sivin, everybody stop everything else that you're doing, all your other activities, and dedicate the day to letters and the children's Sefer Torah. And the Rebbe asked for a duch from every country in the world. How many children signed up in that specific country? When you have to give a duch, you have to do things differently. And Kiyadua, that Erev Chag HaShavuos was a final decision of the Israeli government, that if they would wait any longer, there would be nuclear radioactivity in the area, which is dangerous. That was the last time that they had to do any kind of a pu'ula against the nuclear reactor. And Erev Chag HaShavuos in the afternoon, fighter planes with bomber planes took off from an Air Force base in Eretz Yisrael towards Iraq, and Kiyadua totally destroyed the nuclear reactor. And there was, till today, there's no nuclear weapon found in Iraq. And it took 10 years for the United States, the American government, to acknowledge and to thank Eretz Yisrael for the pula that they did, because when they came into the Gulf War, they did not find any nuclear activity. Point out that a few weeks before that, the Rebbe one day asked Mashkiras to find somebody going to Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe wants to send dollars to the lieutenants, the K'tsinei Tzahal in Eretz HaKodesh. They found the Shliach. The Shliach gave the dollars to Menachem Lerer, who went to the headquarters in the Kiryah, and he gave out dollars to all of the to happen to be a meeting of Tzavav, of the Matkal, and he gave out dollars to them, and he had dollars left over, so he went to an Air Force base in Rome in the south of Israel, where he had connections there, and he was always involved in activities there. And that was the Air Force base where the planes took off from to that mission in Iraq. The Rebbe connected not only is the Achdus of Yiddish of children, Hevel she'em bei Fet, Taneki shel Beis Rab Mishaleim u'Beschusam ha'elam Kayam, and more than the Achdus of adults, which is bring Yeshua and Bracha to Am Yisrael. The Rebbe connected many times with Refuah. Anyone that that time asked for a Refuah for children, the Rebbe said a letter. For sure, the child has bought a letter in the Sefer Torah that is being written within the walls of Yerushalayim. The Rebbe also connected the Sefer Torah, since children are called Mashiach, Atigu b'Mashiach, that the Pula of the Sefer Torah will not only bring Yeshua and Bracha, and Refuah, and Hatzalah, and Agana, but will also be Mazaris, the Gula Amitis Vashlema, because children are called Mashiach. And the Rebbe said that since every Melech, especially Melech Mashiach, needs two Sifrei Torah, which are the two Sifrei Torah of Melech Mashiach, are the two first Sifrei Torah of Yaldi Yisrael and the Growing Mashiach, are the dogmas to the two Sifrei Torah of two Sifrei Torah of Yaldi Yisrael, are the dogmas to the two Sifrei Torah of Melech Mashiach, because children are called Mashiach. At a different Farbrengen, in Baalesum B'Malef, the Rebbe said, when he spoke about the two Sifrei Torah of Mashiach, he said, which are the two Sifrei Torah that Mashiach will have? One is the first children, the Sefer Torah of children, which are called Mashiach, and the first is the Sefer Torah Kabbalah Mashiach, Mashiach Sefer Torah, and the second is the Sefer Torah Shel Yaldi Yisrael. It's interesting that at a Farbrengen Rishchedish there were three Farbrengens, that there was Erev Rishchedish and Shabbos and Beizir. And at all three Farbrengens, the Rebbe spoke about Tzedakah, L'Chatchila Riba, and the children's Sefer Torah. A Chassid sitting at the Farbrengen, Zalman Gerari, was the Seder, and he wants to donate the Keser of the children's Sefer Torah. And he wrote to the Rebbe will accept his gift that he wants to give to the Sefer Torah. The Rebbe said yes, but the Rebbe made a Tanai that the Keser, the Sefer Torah, the Yaldi Yisrael, should be the dugmas daimit to the Keser on the Mashiach Sefer Torah. And they took out the Keser. They went into the Shul's room. They took out the Keser and they brought it to the craftsman who was supposed to write it, and they copied the Sefer Torah. Reb Zalman asked the Rebbe if the Sefer Torah, the Mashiach Sefer Torah is not totally gold; it's part gold and part silver. And he asked if the Rebbe if he could make the children's Sefer Torah kulei zov. And the Rebbe accepted it, and when that was heard later, that the Rebbe said at Balesha that the two Sifrei Torah of Melech Mashiach, of Mashiach Sefer Torah, and the Sefer Torah of Yaldi Yisrael, so Chassidim then said that that's the connection why the Rebbe wanted the two Ksarim to be B'Dema, because these are the two Sifrei Torah of Melech Mashiach. Then that's when the Chagav, the Rebbe wanted a week before, the Rebbe wanted, Zalman Grai was then in Schweiz in the summer, then he get away from the heat, and the Rebbe gave him a Heirah that he should be the one to come to Eretz Yisrael and put the Keser on the Sefer Torah. He said, how can he go? Doctors don't let him, and the Rebbe said, if you get a special, tell him that I want him to, the Rebbe wants him to go and for just a couple of days, have permission. Then he said his wife his daughter has to have a baby, and he has to be in New York. And the Rebbe said, you're not a doctor, you can't do anything anyway, so you can go. And he came to Eretz Yisrael, and he put the Keser on the Sefer Torah. And the Sefer Keser at that time was $80,000, that the value of the Keser then. That was more than 40 years ago. And that Keser is in a safe in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul. And it was a few days after the Siyum Sefer Torah, that somebody wrote to the Rebbe that maybe we can participate in a project connected with the Tzemach Tzedek Shul. So the Rebbe said that the committee of the children's Sefer Torah, the children only pay $1, and the cost and the expense and the certificate and the mailing is about $2 to $3. Today it's like from $3 to $4, $4 to $5. Mail jumped to send a certificate from Eretz Yisrael when the person sends us $1, just the stamp on the envelope is $3. We try to send it from America, but not always do we succeed. The first Sefer, then the Rebbe called in, a week before the Rebbe called in Reb Zalman Shimon Dorkin, the Rebbe 770, asked him to be a shliach of all of Anash that are at the Farbrengen and all of Klal Yisrael in the name of the Rabbonim, and to be the Rebbe's personal shliach to finish the first Sefer Torah and to write the last letter in the second Sefer Torah. And Keminig Yisrael, that Mechabed Anoshim Pchshuvim, with the last words of the Sefer Torah, Le'eni Kol Yisrael, is Mashiach will be here before the scene of the Sefer Torah, and Mashiach will finish the last letters of the Sefer Torah. Yesh Lahoyer, that the Farbrengen there was a Sefer Torah in Tavshim Amalef that Zusha Rifkin wrote that Anash in Eretz Yisrael was close to the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, that yes, the Rebbe wanted to bring the Sefer Torah for the Rebbe to write a letter in the Sefer Torah. The Rebbe picked up his hands and said, this was in Gan Eden Tachnan, and the Rebbe said, I never wrote a letter in the Sefer Torah, Echab Poshet Umeir. But it seems that when Mashiach will come, the Rebbe will write the Rebbe said that Mashiach is going to finish Le'eni Kol Yisrael, and then the Rebbe is going to finish the last letters of the Sefer Torah. The Rebbe also designed the mental, the me'il of the Sefer Torah. The Rebbe made a square and a line down the middle and said 6 tefachim by 6 tefachim. That means each luach is 3 by 6 to write the word Anechi, and then Beis Gimel Daled Hey Vav Zayin Ches Tes Yud on the bottom of within the 6 tefachim. You should write the pasuk Torah Tzivul Anu Moshe Merash Kilos Yankev, and on the Eitz Chaims you should write that the Rebbe said to make 2 mentlin, 2 milim, tchelis, a levana, the tchelis, and on each one should be the same design, and to write Torah Tzivul Anu Moshe the pasuk, and on the Eitz Chaims to write Torah Tzivul Anu Moshe Merash Kilos Yankev, and Eitz Chaim he the Marzikim Ba. And the Ksav Yad that we got later, the Rebbe just writes Eitz Chaim he the Marzikim Ba and finishes at Ba. That didn't finish with Tumschem Yusher. Another shinui that the Rebbe did on it when he wrote Torah Tziva, he wrote Tzadik Yud Vav Hey. He did it on the Me'il and on the Eitz Chaims. He wrote it Tzadik Yud Vav Hey. We didn't have the Ksav Yad in the beginning, but later when in one of the churas of the Krinsky family, the Ksav Yad was shown, and since then we do write Tziva with a Yud, and only Eitz Chaim he the Marzikim Ba. The second Sefer Torah began, and the Rebbe said, since it's a second, you need special merits, and people should get involved. And ever since then, we've now in the middle of the 9th Sefer Torah, the 8th was finished. And Yesh Leimer, but Pashtas, that the reason that was such a Sefer by Anash to finish the 8th Sefer Torah in time was because it was a Shnas Hakil. The same thing happened 7 years earlier when Shnas Hakil. It was a whole year, but it was missing 100,000 letters, and all Anash got involved. Anoshim Noshim Taf, and without any differences of Anash, and children and men, women, everybody got involved in signing up, and the Sefer Torah was also finished in Shnas Hakil. And again, because in a tribute the success of the finishing the Sefer Torah of 120,000 letters in 4 months is one because it was Hakil and the Hesayers to get Anash together, and also because of the technology, the advanced technologies today of what's called the Yesh Leimer WhatsApp that unites Chassidim were united. There was groups and people were talking and involved together as all involved in the same project, one project that united all the Nash and Kiyadua, Achdus Yisrael, Avos Yisrael, which is the last mitzvah that the Rebbe calls it the first mitzvah, but it was in time. It was the last mitzvah that was in Chayel, Tavshin Lamed Vov, that the Rebbe started Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael, and to Yedua that Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael will lead us to Mashiach and His Galus and Mashiach, Meher B'Yameinu Mamish.
Amen.
I mean, first of all, Yasher Kech, for Bechlal, for the Mesilas Nefesh and the Ibergebenkeit to this very important mitzvah of the Rebbe, and for all of us who I know that as Shluchim we are constantly.
Yeah, let me just add a word that the Rebbe once said when the Sefer Torah clearly started, and it was the beginning, and that's when the Rebbe also by Sefer Torah clearly the Rebbe said the pasuk Yimolit Amchel Kohanim Tzakos of the Sefer. That's a remiss to the letter in the Sefer Torah. But then the Rebbe also said, I think it was in Vayetze, not Vayetze, in the beginning of Tavshim and Beis, the Rebbe said that anything that's a kedei to the Beis Shutfa will not succeed. There's not going to be one person involved in irrigation to the mitzvah. They're talking to Sefer Torah Klali, that it's not going to succeed. And at that point, when I heard that part from the Rebbe, I realized that besides the fact that the Rebbe once, in the beginning of the campaign, was right after, a week after the campaign started, 2 weeks, the Rebbe called in Rabbi Klein and said, Ruf dein Schwager, Tutter von Sefer Torah, and asked him, Wiffel Kinder haben schon gekauft Asias, nicht Wiffel Asias, the Sefer had geschrieben, the Wiffel Kinder haben gekauft Asias. And he called, and I counted, and I called back later. When he went again to the Rebbe, he asked the Rebbe, when he heard the number, the Rebbe picked up his hand, das ist mit dem ganzen Sturm. And whatever Rabbi Klein answered, and the Rebbe says, Rufen noch einmal nächste Woche. And ever since then, every Erev Shabbos, I would get a call from Binyamin, the Rebbe wants to know how many children total till today bought letters in Eretz HaKodesh and how much bought in Chutz Laretz. Not how much came in this week. What is the total amount of letters that, and until today, the Rebbe gets a duch every Erev Shabbos of the total amount of children. And at that point, I realized that if I'm not going to be dedicated just to this thing, it's not going to happen. And Mamela dedicated myself to the children's Sefer Torah.
So the first Sefer Torah you mentioned that was never finished. We left on ice for the Rebbe to write in. That's what I'm asking.
No. The Rebbe sends out Mashiach to write the last letter.
The Rebbe sent it as a shliach.
I can send you with your permission. You mentioned the Sefer Torah Klali. It's kind of mocking to say that in Yirtzeh Hashem, the ninth Sefer Torah Klali is Chas V'Shalom der Sitzen Golos, will be concluded here in Montreal Sunday before Rosh Hashanah.
It's Huchlet that it's in Montreal.
Yeah, it's in Montreal in Yirtzeh Hashem.
It's not the ninth Sefer Torah of the Vad that's in Eretz Yisrael. There are probably tens and tens of Sefer Torah Klali, starting with Tomchi Tzmimim, Beis Rivke, all over the world. This is the Vad and Sefer Torah that the Rebbe said when they finished the first Sefer Torah, they asked the Rebbe if they should write a second one. So the Rebbe said, "B'tnai that you will write Sefer Torah Kol Zman Shedo Yidden V'Zdafen Haben Anos Sefer Torah."
Thank you for the clarification. Shkoyach. So this one will be in Golis plan. It's going to be finished here in Montreal. The Rebbe to help as it is will happen in Eretz Yisrael. And as you said, the Rebbe himself will finish the ISIS.
You were talking about, I think the first Sefer Torah, the second Sefer Torah, the Rebbe said there's a Mashiach in there that has his pulse on the button. I don't know, since the Siyum, I don't know, lately he was talking about shooting this guy Putin, shooting any missiles with the, I think it's pretty quiet lately.
Right.
That's very interesting.
But I think it's definitely important to note that in the sense the incredible sense of responsibility that the Rebbe insisted that Greisman feel about every last yid, every last child, pashat the count, the sachakol, the atam to look to the echad is to a certain degree what the Rebbe reminds us, at least me, with the sense of what the Rebbe is demanding of each one of us in our shlichus, in the fact that that's the definition of the Gula Shlema, that it's to look to echad that every single yid, and that's our job. We that's what we signed up for. to remember, and I think part of keeping the Ikka Shluchis or the Geula front and center is not just that we have to prepare ourselves for the Geula, for ourselves to get into the Geula mindset, but part of that is that every single Yid, we have to feel the Achrayas, and every Yid in our stat is neshama is awoken. Neshama is they're aware of their neshama. They're aware of their kesher to Mashiach, and that each one of us latakas eitzis, how to do it with the ganzen shturim. As Rabbi Greisman pointed out, I think as we've done in the past, we'll open up for anybody who has any particular questions. While we have Rabbi Greisman relatively fresh.
And a lot of people ask why all the Sefer Torah, 8 Sefer Torah of Yaldi Yisrael are in the Aron cages of Tzemach Tzedek. Probably is since the Rebbe wanted the Sefer Torah being written, and it doesn't go out of the Tzemach Tzedek shul. They're all in the Aron Kodesh. When Tavshem and Vov, Tezvav Tammuz was the Chanukas Habayis of 770 in Kfar Chabad. The Siyum of the second Sefer Torah was scheduled for a month after that, Chof of Tavshem and Vov. So I wrote to the Rebbe, where should we make the Siyum, the Chnos Sefer Torah of the second Sefer Torah? And I wrote, should it be as it was in the first Sefer Torah in the Tzemach Tzedek shul, or perhaps it should be in 770 Shabbat Kfar Chabad? And the Rebbe underlined as it was in the first one in the Tzemach Tzedek shul. And since the third Sefer Torah was in Tafshin and Vav, so just all the Sefer Torah go into the Aron Kodesh in the Tzemach Tzedek shul. Probably there's a reason the Rebbe connected the Sefer Torah, the Mifta Sefer Torah, with Shleimus Haaretz, and especially in Yerushalayim, and the Ardus in Yerushalayim is probably the connection that no, you don't know.
Are they all used? Is there a rotation? Are they all used? Is there a rotation?
Every week they use a different one. That's what usually rotate. This year they're using the 8th. The whole year you read the 8th Sefer Torah, but usually they rotate.
So the year that the Sefer Torah is finished, it gets the opportunity to use.
Initially, Rav Hennig was the one who wrote the Sefer Torah. And then who are the Seferim that continue writing?
Shleiman Hennig was the first one to start in Chedesh in Ir. The Rebbe said one of our bring-ins that he wants to make sure that the Siyum should be in Shnaz Hakel. So the Rebbe is suggesting to take a second Sefer. The Rebbe at the time got I know that he had Zalman Shimon, and Rav Fotzasichos was involved at that time, researching the Indian of having 2 Sefer write a Sefer Torah. And at the Fabrengen, the Rebbe said, the Maskona, that you see that the Arizal asked the Sefer to write a Sefer Torah, and told them that to leave the Shemus Akdeshim, to leave empty. And the Arizal said he's going to fill it in. So here you see the Rebbe said that it's not a Sefer Torah Menumer, and 2 Seferim can write the Sefer Torah. The second Sefer Torah, so the first and the second were written by another Sefer, Shimshon Kana. The Rebbe said one Sefer should write the beginning and the second should write the end. And when it comes to the second Sefer Torah, you should switch. Whoever wrote the end to write the beginning at the end. That way you won't have a problem in paying and how to pay them, because you each will get paid for a complete Sefer Torah. The third Sefer Torah was also in a Shnaz Hakel, and we wanted to finish in time, but the Sefer wasn't up to it. And 5 Sofrim wrote the third Sefer Torah. The third Torah was written in Ksav. That's when Yosef Yitzchak Hennig, the son of Shlomo Aaron, did not yet know the Alter Rebbe's Ksav. So the Arizal was the third Sefer Torah was written in Ksav. And from then on, Yosef Yitzchak Hennig is the Sefer. Together in the 4th Sefer Torah, Shlomo Aaron wrote the last Sefer Dvorim. And the 5th and the 6th and the 7th was written completely by Yosef Yitzchak Hennig. The 8th Sefer Torah, we were now, besides getting 120,000 kids to write letters, we had to finish the Sefer Torah. Another Sefer was taken that writes Ksav Alter Rebbe. His name is Shner Zalman Liebman, and he lives in Yerushalayim. And he wrote Vayikra and Bamidbar, and Hennig wrote Bereshis, Shmos, and Devarim.
So you're saying that other than the third Sefer Torah was written in Ksav, but most of them were written in Alter Rebbe?
All were written in the Alter Rebbe's Ksav. It didn't come from the Rebbe. The Rabbonim had a meeting at the beginning what to write, and they decided it should be the Alter Rebbe. Everybody asked if they want to know if the Rebbe said to write the Alter Rebbe's Ksav. It was the Rabbanim that decided then to write the Alter Rebbe's Ksav. And the third one, there was no Sefer to come to the old city in Yerushalayim because it's not easy to find a Sefer from any part of the country. We're looking for Sofrim that live in Yerushalayim to write, to go to the old city, to get into the old city. Today,
Where are they actually, when they're writing, where are they writing in the old city?
there's a room in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul that is dedicated with the desk, and now we have 2 desks just for the Sefer, a little corner that he has where he has his desk and his Ksav and his lights and everything that he needs to write the Sefer Torah.
Mashiach Sefer Torah is also the Alter Rebbe's Ksav?
I don't think so, no.
Which one is it? The Rizal?
Pashas the Rizal.
Pashas the Rizal. Yeah, interesting.
Shmuel, I missed it. The first one is also the Alter Rebbe's Ksav, and the first one is everything.
The first is the Alter Rebbe's Ksav.
All of them. Okay.
No, he's saying the Mashiach Sefer
is
Torah. Mashiach Sefer Torah is the Rizal.
the Rizal.
You might want to also post a link to send donations. And you still need donations. Mistama.
Donations. Well, he needs donations, but also we need to make sure that every last
child.
Geld.
So
the expense of every this Sefer Torah. There was once a schmutzig article against the Lubavitch, against the Rebbe, and one of the things they said was the most expensive Sefer Torah in the world is the children's Sefer Torah. Why? Because how much did the Sefer Torah cost? $50,000. They made a cheshbon, so it's $250,000 that going in, that Lubavitch is making. At that time, there was somebody in Eilat, the Menayel of the port, who was close to Lubavitch, and he read the article in this magazine. He wrote a letter to the editor. How can you say about Lubavitch? I work with them. They have obviously sold. They're dedicated. And the article and the letter to the editor were sent into the Rebbe. This was before, a month into the campaign. And the Rebbe wrote, and the Rebbe said, obviously Saul, good, but did you explain to them how Zbir lechem sha'api hashara shel mumche yale lekol yeled $2 the tipul b'yeled $2. That Rebbe said in the beginning of the campaign. At the end of the campaign, a few days afterwards, the Rebbe said $3. But today it's so the truth really is that the most expensive Sefer Torah in the world is the children's Sefer Torah. $1 million goes in at least into every Sefer Torah. $3 a letter, 300,000 letters, $1 million.
Why are you mentioning the number 120,000 letters when we're dealing with 300 and something?
No, because this year, when we made the decision to finish the Sefer Torah this year, there were 120,000 letters missing that still to buy. That it can't
finish it for Shnas Hakel.
4 or 5 months to finish it. Shnas Hakel, 120,000 kids bought letters. Besides the siyum, the actual siyum that costs money, to take care of the 120,000 kids. To send
now, when we're saying 120,000 kids, are these all kids who never had a letter? These are new kids?
We don't know for sure if they're new kids. The only time we check doubles. The Rebbe said that a Sefer Torah is only 1 letter per child, or 1 letter for adult. Why? So more Yidden are united. But we only check in the 8th Sefer Torah, we make a double check in the computer. But we don't check if the child had one in the 7th or in the 6th. So it could be the kids that bought could be their children that have letters in another Sefer Torah, but we don't check for that. But Rabbanim said that only in one Sefer Torah we should check for doubles, but not in a different Sefer Torah.
Guys, but can you put in a link in the chat, please?
How do you do that?
So just say what's the link and who can put it.
Rabbi Rubenfeld will
he's not there.
Put it in.
What's the link?
So then we'll put it in. Okay, now. What's the kidstorah.org, yeah? Somebody just put it in, kidstorah.org.
I just put it in. What do I do to finish?
You'll see the arrow on the bottom of it, on the right, you'll see arrow.
He got it.
That's the arrow. Okay, we have kidstorah.org. We have it. It's on.
It has to be a period over there.
Kidstorah.org, donate, right?
It's kidstorah. It's a mistake.
Yeah. Oh, it's a mistake.
Kidstorah.org. It's just the slash is the same. All right.
I'm sorry. Question. Rabbi Greisman, since you mentioned about money, I'm doing a quick cheshbon here. You said it's a few dollars per kid because of the certificate and the mailing. But what about the Sefer? Or what about this? I mean, it's people who have salaries, so it's much more, no?
That's what I'm saying. It's $3 to $5 a letter.
At least.
At
Just the
least
mailing,
$4 a
just the
letter.
certificate on
We
the
took
mailing.
extra workers. It took three extra secretaries now to just pack the certificates. You have to enter the information. Not everything comes online. Not everything comes in an Excel file. We have to get someone to type the information. And the Rebbe said in the beginning, Hago hated. In other words, a good checking it. 3 times the information that the child gave is checked. After the form comes, we check that everything is okay. And when packing the certificate, we pack it against the line. We check to see that the certificate, the name on the certificate is correct according to the form. And packing it and mailing it and computers and updates and all these kind of things. Of course, it's money.
Rabbi Greisman, maybe you can speak a little bit to what you see, because obviously you have Anash and Shluchim. Obviously, we're very committed. Can you share a story or two of what you see the impact of the children's Sefer Torah in the wider Yiddish Welt, and maybe even in the government, the Israeli government? Where have you seen that the power of the Sefer Torah outside of the realm of Lubavitch?
There are children, there are adults that come today that say that their connection with Yiddishkeit is that they remember that I had a letter in the Sefer Torah, that they have their certificate someplace packed away. And there were times, I know, from people that came into the mosque to sign up to be Jewish, they had to bring proof that they're Jewish and to get married in Eretz Yisrael and Motzah Datit. And rabbis told me that they brought a certificate that they got when they were a child in France that, shows that they're Jewish, even though it's not a raya. But people have their certificate and they feel a connection with Yiddishkeit. At the last Siyum 2 years ago, there was a lady that afterwards sent us, called me and said that she was at Punk, fell into the Siyum Sefer Torah, and she said that when she was a child, that many years ago there was a campaign, probably the first campaign that people came to school and signed up children, and my teacher did not let me buy a letter in the Sefer Torah because I was a wild kid. Lady said, and I was not given the privilege of writing a letter, but now I'm an adult. But I want to make sure that my children will not go through what I went through, and every one of my children and every one of my kids in my class, I get them a letter in the Sefer Torah. She was at the Siyum, and she says that connects her. She feels that connects her with Jewish children all over the world, connects her with the Torah. That's her connection with Yiddishkeit. And
how about the Frumevelt, the Admurim or people that is there a involvement?
Well, you see that the amount of people, the Rabbanim and Admurim that came to all the Siyumim, that you have from Snagdim and not Snagdim, Litvisha, Svardim, all the Gdalim from all over, what letters were involved in the Sefer Torah from all the Chiddush Welt. And we have special magazine just for the Charedim with all the pictures of all the Admurim and the Rabbanim and that came. It's
interesting that no one copied it.
What, the idea of the children's Sefer Torah?
Yes.
People write Sefer Torah, not a children's
write Sefer Torah, but like no one like you would think, someone should take it.
At the first Siyum Sefer Torah, Pinchas Menachem, it was that was still there, Shiva, came to the Siyum, and he came along with Tuvi Zilbasham, and he told him in the car while he was going to the old city, he said that his father,
Imre Amos. His father's the Imre Amos.
Not the Beis Yisrael, I think.
The Imre Amos is the father of.
Okay, and he wanted to write a Sefer Torah for Klal Yisrael before the war or during the war, and he didn't succeed. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe succeeded in writing a Sefer Torah for Achdus to be Ma'achid Dam Yisrael. So they were all Mishtated, the Gerer Mishtated.
The Imre Amos said that. The Imre Amos Zak Klarheit that the Lubavitcher Rebbe succeeded in.
No, Imre Amos wasn't alive. The son, Pinchas Menachem.
He said his father wanted to write that, but he did not succeed.
But...
And he says today that the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, was succeeded. And
when the Rebbe came out with the campaign, I went to see the Bashgacha Pratis. I went to the Tosher Rebbe over here, and he got very excited. He took out
the book. He's in the album. I mean,
he took out the Sefer, and he showed me the Sefer that says over there, as the Sefer Torah for Kinder, when bringing Moshiach. And he got very, very excited.
Which Sefer did you bring him?
I couldn't see. It was on top of Chatzuris and the Sefer.
He brought a Sefer Torah. He brought out a Sefer.
No, he took out the Sefer from his farm shank, and he showed
and that Sefer, it says that his children's Sefer Torah will bring
children's Sefer
Mashiach.
Torah bring Mashiach.
To the sun, where
What,
I
in
think
Yiddish?
that Sefer.
What?
On Lashon Kodesh. Yiddish or Lashon Kodesh?
He knew Lashon Kodesh.
No. No, I'm saying it was written in the Sefer.
Stani showed me the Sefer said that the children. I don't remember the Lashon now, but that's what it said then. And he was very inspired that the Rabbi is doing it, etc., etc.
Wow.
To answer your question that you asked before the world, 2.5 million kids are not Lubavitch. Right? This number one, so obviously, numbers wise, but no later than today, at the Shir Tanya, is over there somebody who is not identified with Lubavitch. And I mentioned the importance of buying oasis in the Sefer Torah Kloli. This person asked me, I already registered all my Einiklich and Ureiniklich in the Sefer Torah of children. Do we also have to get this letter in this Sefer Torah? It's nicht Kalabavitcher. And she said clearly, she made sure that all her kids and Einiklich and Ureiniklich, they should all have kids letters in this Sefer Torah.
It's an amazing thing. I think that Ruven mentioned it, that in all other things the Rebbe was mechaviv the idea that there should be copy, right? Mr. Tefillin, whatever it is, and here it's interesting that Taka, something that seems to be right up the alley of something that others would want to copy, and because of galvanized, and yet this has to be Gans Klal Yisrael. This has to be there has to be one address for the for the Sefer Torah Yeladim, and the ganze Welt recognizes that.
On the certificate, the Rebbe said you should not be Madgish Lubavitch, except for the fact that you have to write that the Vada Baruch Chabad that signs it says Kfar Chabad, but Chutz Mizeh should not be Madgish anything of Lubavitch. If you shaykhs to Klal Yisrael, which is why the Rebbe in the first Siyum was very, very much involved and wanted Vosmer Rabbonim Fremde should come.
When was the first
issue? Baruch Shimon Schneerson was supposed to come, and he didn't come at the end. But he was pressured from who knows, from people, I don't know, whatever, not to come. And the Rebbe was very upset with it. And he asked Alman Shimon when he came back, what happened? Why didn't he come? The Rebbe wanted the Rebbe said it was a gelegenheit to be ma'achid al chugim, and at that time it wasn't used. It wasn't
this year that they came. This year they came to write.
Huh?
Other chukum, like Litvish, they came to the Siyum itself.
It was from Told
They participated in the Siyum.
Reuven Elbaz came from the Svardish came.
When was the first Siyum?
Chof Tavshim Amalev.
So it started with a half a year from Nisan till when did it start?
3.5 months. The Sefer Torah was finished.
Wow.
Someone's asking questions. Hold on, Rabbi. Hold on. There's some questions in this chat for Rabbi Greisman. Someone's asking here: can we register all the kids in our camp on their behalf? How does that work?
The Rebbe said there's no greater in one of the shikha, there's no greater Rabbi Yisrael than to be mezachke a yid with a letter in the Sefer Torah. Even though the Rebbe in the beginning said that it's best that the child buy it themselves, but you could be mezaka a yid with a letter in the Sefer Torah. And b'shas, the lashon was that b'shas you're buying the letter for somebody else, you're giving the money for him. Zolminyenim schenken the geld. Let it be makna the money to the person that's buying it, as if it's his money that's buying it, so the letter should be his king.
Wow.
And
wow.
You're not gifting him the letter. You're gifting him.
There's so many schools and camps that sign up all the kids, and they let the kids know we're buying you a present. You're getting a letter in the Sefer Torah, and they do it for the school, and that's the best way for us because we get an Excel file, and you don't have to retype it. And if there's
amazing.
Sometimes a mistakes anyway. And another mile is today in
Okay.
America that,
Mm.
especially in America, most schools have printers, good colored printers. They even print it themselves, and then they can print it any size they want. They can frame it. They can put it on different kinds of backgrounds that they use. And the school sometimes the day before the end of school, they that they didn't want to buy letters for the children, and then they send us the forms in the morning. 2 hours, 3 hours later, they're going to get a PDF to their computers, and they can print it and do whatever they want.
Okay, just a little housekeeping here. In regard that this is to everybody that has come on, and it's also a benefit for those listening to the recording later. That this, first of all, a tremendous yashikir to Rabbi Greisman, and really to see those pictures, to really of all of us who are have our hearts in Eretz Yisrael, to hear the stories come out the Pido the Lavavis in the year of Hakel, and then to see that was really, for as I said, should have a tremendous amount of atzlacha in the 9th Sefer Torah, and more importantly, you should have the tremendous nachas of watching the Sefer Torah that you helped facilitate being held by Melech HaMashiach, as the Rebbe said it will be. And
One of the secrets the Rebbe said that those that are Eitzik and Mitzvah Sefer Torah will be the ones to go first towards Mashiach with the Sefer Torah.
Wow.
Let it be today.
Amen.
Amen.
So Rabbi Greisman, I'm gonna gehe halten stark auf dein Kapotte, if you don't mind. But either way, once a month we have a special speaker in Mitzvah Hashem. Next month we have Rabbi Simon Jacobson to talk on Mashiach in Sidis, and especially in connection with Tishrei. We should have that in Mitzvah Hashem that's shared in Yerushalayim with Mashiach. Keno, and then I'll ask. I'm sure Rabbi Jacobson will be more than happy to give up his talking position to Mashiach Alein. But Galus plans is that as long as, for whatever reason it is, that we are coming together on Zoom and not in Yerushalayim, we come together every week, Latakis Eitzes, to be ma'ir at each other on the shlichus ha'ikris. In the same way, I think, if I may borrow and have the blate plates to say that in the same way that the Rebbe checked in weekly with Rabbi Greisman on his particular shlichus. The Rebbe has made it all of our shlichus and to bring the Gola, and we have to be checking in weekly with this, and that is the goal of this Minatzchim meeting. So we check in weekly. We're to give a duch to each other, to give to verbring with each other, to be mitakas eitzes, to move forward, so that take we keep the mission front and center, and do everything that we can to be menatzeach. For Midas Anitzachim is that we get the bizbos ha'itzus, and we should see it, we should feel it, and we should get the job done. So everybody who's participates, and whoever in Mitzvah Hashem will participate in the future, that weekly at 2 p.m. 770 time, we come together. We have a couple projects that we are currently working on, and the big one is another element of Achdus, so Yom Iyun. We're bringing together the entire Yiddish Welt, from the Litvische to the Chassidische to the Weltische to the Svadische, everybody that have, as we did with the Ubikshu, with the Yom Tefillah. This will be a Yom Iyun with speakers on all topics of Mashiach. As the Rebbe says that in Yom Mashiach is the Derech HaYeshara. So to learn about Yom Mashiach and to have bring the Achad Klal Yisrael in the limud of Yom Mashiach, whatever it takes to get the job done, whatever it takes to bring the Geula. So once again, a big yashakech to Rav Greisman, kidstorah.org/donate, and hopefully in Mitzvah Hashem, as we'll say, the ultimate ksiva is that we will be already a long time in Yerushalayim, in the Harabayis, celebrating all the Yom Tovim with Melech Mashiach holding the children's Sefer Torah.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Shkoyach. Thank you for the organizers.
Big yashakach. Anybody wants to stay on, and as Rabbi Greisman's pleasure, whatever it is. If anybody still has a question or two, we'll keep the Zoom going. Again, with Rabbi Greisman, whenever you feel that you have to disconnect, please.
If
But
Rabbi
at
Greisman
this point, we are officially.
If Rabbi Greisman wants to go in the chat, there was a question there. If you want to read it and answer, it's up to you.
Where is it?
In chat.
One of the Haggadah the Rebbe wrote to send names. Or to local Chabad, correct. And one of the Haggadah the Rebbe wrote to send names to 770 or to local Chabad, correct. But in one of the LNS, I think in the second LNS, the Rebbe wrote you should send it to, but in the Fabrengen, the Rebbe said, don't send it in to me, send it, that's not the Kavanah, send it directly to, I guess when he wrote a statement to people in America, but when he wanted to tell Anash, when people in America, that they go to their local Chabad house or to 770 East Parkway. But Rebbe probably didn't want to tell people in New York that, not Anash, to send letters directly to Israel. So he said, send it to your local Chabad house to have a connection. But at the Fabrengen, the Rebbe said, don't send the forms in to me. Send it directly to Eretz HaKodesh, or the Kind Haben HaKesher Yashir with Eretz HaKodesh.
So the question I had was, the Rebbe said the two Sefer Torah the Mashiach has was the Kid Sefer Torah, the first Sefer Torah, or just Machlal, the Kid Sefer Torah. One is the Mashiach Sefer Torah.
Well, the Rebbe said that there was only one Sefer Torah. He said that, I think he said first Sefer Torah of Yaldi Yisrael. When then he said that since children are called Mashiach, so the two Sifrei Torah of Yaldi Yisrael are bedugmas the two Sifrei Torah of El Mashiach. And Ba'aleischa, the Rebbe said that the two Sifrei Torah will be the one for Mashiach Sefer Torah and I guess the first Sefer Torah of the Yaldi Yisrael. There was only one Sefer Torah at the time. I don't remember if he said the first Sefer Torah of the Yaldi Yisrael. I don't. To take a look to see the exact list.
Rabbi Greisman.
Okay, Gordon.
Let us meet not on Zoom. Let us meet already in the Beis Hamikdash, not on Zoom.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Take it from me out. This guy was now.